Everybody, and welcome back to part 2 in our series on test-driven development in Apex. Hopefully we're going to wrap this one all up today. We're going to start working with S-objects, actually getting stuff into the database, and talk a little bit about what I see is the difference between a unit test, maybe an integration test, and just talk a little bit more about what I will say, or I will plant my flag is on the right way to write tests in Apex. So enough said about that, huh? Let's just dive right into the code, and we're going to try to make this video short because some of mine get a little long. So we're right back where we started off. Let's just to make sure, let's run our tests, make sure our system works so far. All right, so good place. We got all green check marks across the board, and you notice I think those are pretty fast, right? And that's an important part of TDD is that you have like fast, reliable tests. All right, so let's switch over. Let's go back to the class we were actually working on, Fizz Buzz. And you can see right now all we've got are those 3 public methods to check, right? Is Fizz, is Buzz, is Fizzbuzz. And something I'm thinking maybe right now we could do, because remember our pattern we talk about in TDD is red, green, refactor. So we're green now. Maybe we can do a little refactoring. So just for example, I feel like these methods could probably be private. So if I go in here and I like change that to private, all right, and I'm gonna now push it up to my scratch org, push, wait for that to go. Something I'm a big advocate of, or believer, is it's really hard to refactor effectively or refactor fearlessly without good tests. So now that we have refactored and we've deployed that up to our environment, let's go back to we don't need to be in our terminal. Let's go back to our tests and let's run them. Now, why are you not running from the hotkey like you're supposed to? I don't know. Make me read. Something failed, right? So here's the beauty of of the test and the TDD. We know the whole system worked minutes ago, right? So how much could we have really changed that broke something in the last couple minutes? And we could see, right, like what went wrong, right? Method is not visible. All right, so what we didn't do is we didn't add a is test visible param on there, right? So let's go back to our F12, back to our class. We're going to get out of here. And we're going to do at test visit. We're going to just, for right now, you can maybe later we'll decide this was wrong, but that's part of TDD actually, is it kind of lets us be wrong, because, it's pretty hard to be sure that your first implementation is actually the right one. And TDD lets us go back and no, because I kind of know, hey, I gotta, so, TDD lets us also do kind of things really small if we want. Because that first one failed and I know why, I feel pretty confident that I can go back in and just change these other 3 signatures effectively, as long as I give the at test visible decoration. All right. Let's push that up. Slow today, huh? All right. Okay, so everything deployed. Let's go back to our tests and run them, and they should all pass. All right, awesome. All right, next thing we really need to do, right? So, because we actually have to make this work with S-objects, we just have 3 methods in here that check stuff. So we have to have a way to get S-objects in here. So what I'm going to say is Fizzbuzz needs a constructor. And, reality is we probably want a constructor that's going to take a list of S-objects, right? Because you're going to, we're going to want to tie this into a trigger handler that's going to pass at 200, Fizzbuzz records at a time to be processed. So let's go back over to our tests. And so we know we want to add a constructor. Let's go down to the bottom here. And let's start writing a test for a constructor. Is test. So all I really want to do, right, I want to test that, hey, I'm going to pass in a list of Fizzbuzzes, and that there's going to be, some sort of property, right? A Fizzbuzz list, in this case, I think we'll use. It's going to get populated by that data for our class to use, right? So let's go to Static. We'll just call this test constructor. All right. We're going to say given. So what's our given here? I'm going to say I have a, I'm going to given, I'm going to need a Fizz Buzz. I'm going to just call it Fizz equals new Fizzbuzz underscore C. All right, and we'll say value for analysis, because that's the field on our equals 3. All right. Now we're going to put that on a list, right? So we're going to say Fizz Buzzes. Yeah, why not? That works for me. And then we're just going to assign it in through the constructor. Fizz. All right. So that's kind of our initial state, right? We've got that S object, and we've got a list that contains it. So now we're going to say when. Well, I don't know why that happens sometimes. When. I don't know why you do that to me, tab 9. Now we're going to create a new Fizzbuzz class. We're going to say Fizzbuzz. We're going to call it FB equals new Fizzbuzz. And we're going to pass that list in, right? And we're going to Fizzbuzzes. Oh, we got a red squiggly. It won't compile, right? If I try to deploy this right now, it won't compile. And that should be enough, right? All we really want to do right now, if we're doing TDD, let's just write enough for it to make this compile. And yeah, I mean, if it was a language that compiled a little bit faster than Apex, but I know there's that red squiggly. I know if I try to push this up to my Scratch org, it's just going to fail. So instead of saving everybody 90 seconds of sitting here staring at that, let's just get rid of that. Let's write just enough production code to get rid of that red squiggly, huh? All right, so bam, bam, over to Fizzbuzz. Let's go up to the top here. And I'm going to, first, I'm going to create that. For right now, just to make things fast and easy, I'm going to make it just a public list. It's going to be a list of Fizzbuzzes. And we'll call it records to process. All right. And if you want to, for later on, right, you could come back in here and refactor this doing the tests if somebody wanted to practice on this at all. Now we're going to need our constructor. Public Fizzbuzz. Remember, our constructors always have the same name. And that's going to take a list to process. And I'm going to say, you know what? So what we're going to do, this.records to process equals records to process. All right, let me go back, and if I go back and look at my test class, that red squiggly, that is gone, but you know what? Something else happened. Is now, because we created a constructor, so all of these other test methods, right, that are just testing, because remember, they created a new Fizzbuzz before it had a constructor. So earlier I thought about this, and I thought, well, you know what? I could just, go in here, and I could build a no-argument constructor. And I thought about it, said, that's not really, in my opinion, the optimal way to do this, because the only reason I'm creating a no-argument constructor would be for my tests. And I really don't like to write production code that exists only, for the reason of a unit test. So the fastest, or in my opinion, the best way to deal with this, although, I would not disagree with you if you said the most tedious, is we're just going to create an empty list and throw it in there so these compile. So I'm just going to say new list. Fizzbuzz C, Fizzbuzzes. All right, and that's all I need. And I am going to now copy that whole line. Well, I'm not going to copy the whole line. What am I doing? I'm just going to Fizz buzzes, right? Fizz buzzes. And now let's go down to, oop. All right. Oh, we got that. And we are going to copy the whole line. I'm just confusing myself today. Let's go down to our next method. We're going to go boom. Fizz buzzes. All right. So bear with me for a second. Whoa, what happened there? Fizz buzzes. Try to be a hot shot on your keyboard and it backfires sometimes, right? All right. Almost there, folks. Almost there. Fizz buzzes. It's going to be worth it, I promise. It's going to be worth it, I promise. Test constructor. All right. I think everything should compile and run. Let's go. Let's push. And while we're waiting, once in a while, I'll get somebody to ask, hey, what's that command? I've never seen that. That's just an alias, right? You can do them whether you're using Bash or PowerShell. If you're lazy like me, I'd rather write DX, but then, SFDX, : so that's just my pure laziness, making it a little bit faster for me. All right, now everything is pushed. We are back on our tests. And let's run them. All right, everything passes, except what I want to remind you. This test here is so everything compiled. This test here is still kind of a liar, right? It passes, and it actually would even give us code coverage, but it doesn't do anything. And I call that a liar test, right? It passes, it gives you code coverage, but we write tests to make sure our code works, not to get code coverage. So let's and that's why assertions are so important. So let's assert FB dot, or what did we, FB dot records to process at index of 0 dot value for analysis. We're going to make sure equals 3. All right, I think that's a good assertion. Let's deploy it. All right, everything pushed. So let's bam. Let's run this one. Well, let's run them all. Yeah. That's the only thing we changed. So we'll just run this one for right now. Everything passed. Awesome. Awesome. All right, so now we've got a constructor. So what we need to do next is actually run this, right? So we've got a constructor. It's taking a list of records. We got to run it. We got to do say, hey, for Fizzbuzz in Fizz buzzes, right? Is Fizz, is Buzz, etc., and test it out. So go back to our tests. I'm going to think a little bit about how I want to do this. So at is test. I'm going to say static void record is Fizz. All right. I think that'll roughly, because I want to make sure an S object actually gets updated, right? And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that. I'm going to copy and paste the given, when, then too, right? I want all of that. All right, given when Fizzbuzz got a new list of Fizz buzzes, and I'm going to say when Fizzbuzz dot run. All right, So right now we have, because there is no method called run on Fizzbuzz. All right, so our test, we are shut down right there. So let's just Alt-Shift-Enter, public void run. And so now we have our method called run. And show just enough to, everything should compile. So let's do that. All right, everything compiles. So now let's go back to our original tests. Fizzbuzz.run. And you know what? I think we want to assert that. Well, you know what we need to do? We actually need to give this a value, right? It can't be a dummy this time. So let's say Fizzbuzz C. Call this our fizzer. New value for analysis when equal 3. All right. Let's pass that into our list. Fizzer. Fizzer.run. So what I should expect when this runs, why are you doing that to me? Sometimes Cloud9 is, if I don't pay attention, it fills stuff in that I don't really want. Then, so let's do system assert. So we're going to say, here's what I think is a good test for right now. Fizzbuzz records to process 0 results is equal to fizz. So let's test that. Why do I have a red squiggly? Oh, because there's... All right, because there was not a double underscore C there. All right, so... I think every time I make videos, stuff seems to deploy just a little bit slower than it does at other times. All right, let's run it. This should fail. And we are at 18 minutes. All right, so that is, boom, there we go. Fizz Buzz. Now it's back to our run. So now let's just say for Fizzbuzz C. Fizzbuzz C. I'm going to call FB in this dot records to process. All right. And we're going to say if is fizz and then FB dot result C equals fizz. And I'm going to put a continue at the bottom here because I don't want to continue. We're going to have a few more conditions here, and I don't want to keep looping through if something passes. And how about we actually call our method and pass in the value? So, you know, because that is a number field from an S object, it's going to be a decimal. So I'm going to cast it to an integer. Integer. There we go. And I want to say FB dot. Whoa, keyboard. Oh my God, what just happened there? Wow. Must have crumbs in my keyboard or something. So we're going to say fb.results equals so. Back in our for loop, I'm just going to, maybe I just control Z and get myself back to where I was. fb dot value. That was crazy. All right. Let's deploy this. But I'm not going to edit any of this out. All right. You just get all the... Someday I'll be a 10xer wizard on the keyboard, I swear. Not today, though. All right, let's see. Let's see if that test passes. It passed. How about that? Let's run them all. Does our whole system still work? We're at 20 minutes. Let's run it with coverage. I'm running with coverage. I'm going to make a point here. Oh my goodness. Let's go look at we have 100% code coverage. Look at that. Oh, green, 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 green. And you know what? Not once did I write a test to get code coverage. I shouldn't say we wrote tests to make sure our code worked. And the byproduct of that was that we have awesome, perfect code coverage. You know what? I'm looking over at my clock, and this is at 21 minutes. I'd wanted to wrap this all up today, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I am going to, feel free, I'm going to push this all up to GitHub in a second. Take it, try to rebuild if you want, and we'll finish it up with everything else in part 3. So if this was useful, helpful to you at all, please, I'd love to hear from you. Click that like and subscribe. I don't know if people say it helps. I don't know. It doesn't help me. I don't make any money off this, but maybe it just makes me feel better about myself that somebody actually watches these. So again, I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you in part 3 of TDD with Apex.